Hey everybody, it's Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. How are you guys? I'm so happy to be here with you today. I am working on the Paradise Palms bundle this week, and I am having so much fun playing with this bundle. It is awesome. It's this stamp set here with these beautiful palm trees. You have that sunset, you have the little coconuts, the grass, some really pretty fonts in the sentiments there. And then this is the die set, which is awesome. As you can see, I'm using this long strip piece today on our card. And then I paired it with the Stylish Shapes, which I love shape dies. If you've been watching me for a while, you know that I use shape dies all the time. They're definitely awesome to have in your arsenal, and they just add a little touch to your cards. I used this second of the shorter banner pieces right here. So we'll be using that. Let me show you the inside of the card. It's a happy birthday card, and I have a little bit of seagrass in there with the words happy birthday. And this is a bookbinding card, which is why when you open it, it's not the full length of the card on the outside. So I will show you how to make that. So let's go ahead and get started. I am going to move all of this stuff out of our way, and I'm gonna put the card in the corner. Hopefully I'm in camera here, and we will get started. So it's kind of a scene building card. And I start with a piece of 4 inches by 11 inches. This is Bermuda Bay cardstock, and we're gonna score it in 2 places. So I'm gonna grab my Simply scoreboard. You guys know I love this, so definitely get yourself a scoreboard. If you don't have one, you could go to inkyhandswarmhearts.com and get one at my online store. This one's called Simply Scored. So we are gonna score at 5.5, which is the halfway point of 11 inches. And then we're also going to score at 6.5. So we need 2 score marks for this type of a card. So you have 2 right here. Let's go ahead and pull them out. And I'm going to use my bone folder. We're going to burnish on both of those score marks. So we're going to start here, and I'm going to do the halfway fold. And I always like to hold the 2 corners together and then press with my bone folder to get a nice crease. I like when my cards lay flat when I'm working on them. So now we have this score mark right here, which is what's going to cause us to be able to open our card like this. So I'm going to go ahead and score that mark also. So this is my score mark. My card is going to be glued down here, and this is going to be my opening and closing section. So let's go ahead and glue this closed. We don't need to have it open for any reason. So that's usually the first thing I do when I start with a bookmark card, a bookbinding card. So on this seam here, in between these 2 score marks, that's where I'm going to put my adhesive. And I'm just going to go in a rectangle and then kind of squiggle in the middle. So now I will close it, and then I will fold this flat back, and then I'm just going to press and let that adhesive just grab and make sure it doesn't ooze. It didn't. I didn't get too crazy with the glue. So that is the way our card is going to open. So that part now is sealed. All right, so we are going to do a little decorative edge right here. Let's just get that part out of the way. So I have already cut that border die that I was talking about with some crumb cake cardstock, and I'm going to use my silicone mat and wet adhesive to attach this onto the bookbinding section right here of my card. See, doesn't that look, it's a really pretty effect, I think. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to grab my silicone mat because for me, that helps me not to get glue all over my surface. And I'm just going to start with the same wet adhesive. I'm just going to put dots where there's more cardstock. I'm just going to work my way down, and then in the centers of these little pieces. And then on the ends, I want to make sure that I have a line of adhesive, and I'm just putting just the tiniest bit of adhesive. It's not a lot, down this edge, and I'm gonna go down this edge, and some of those dots that I've made, I'm kind of dragging that glue, but I really want the ends to stick really well so that it doesn't lift. So that's about all the glue we need. I'm gonna grab my tweezers. I love my tweezers. And we're gonna go ahead and pick up that piece. I'm gonna lay it here over my mat, and I'm gonna try and eyeball the center here and just place that down on my card, just like that. And we're gonna press that into place. All right, so that's that part. We'll tie the ribbon at the very end. Let's go ahead and work on our scenes. So we have two pieces of crumb cake. Two pieces of crumb cake in white on the outside. They're 4 inches by 3 3/4 of an inch because I wanted a nice wide border all the way around. And so I have basic white that is 3 7/8 by 3 5/8, and my crumb cake is 4 by 3 3/4. All right, so those two pieces are gonna get layered on top right here. My inside piece of white goes right to the edge, so it just has a very small border. So this is a bigger piece. So this piece of basic white is 4 1/4 by 4 inches, and that's for the inside. So you want to make sure that you have it the right direction, but that's the 4 by 4 1/4 inches. It's 4 1/4 inches tall and 4 across. That gives me that nice little border all the way around. And this little strip here that I used to cut that die cut, I used about a 3/4 of an inch by 4 1/4 inch piece of crumb cake for that border. And for the sentiment, to cut the little die cut piece out of that banner, it was a 1 inch by 2 1/4 inch. So that's all the measurements. Let's go ahead and start building our scene on the outside. I'm going to show you how you build this up. Okay, so we're going to need the white piece that layers on the crumb cake. So I'm just going to use this piece right here, and I'm going to set these other pieces, the one that goes on the inside, come on, and the one that goes outside. I'm going to set those off camera here to the side. And also, I don't need this yet. We're going to build our scene. So I'm going to grab some scrap paper, which is like what I like to use. I always have quarter sheets of scrap paper on hand, and I'm just gonna lay my piece on this scrap paper, and I'm gonna be using some blending brushes, and I'm gonna be using some masking techniques. What masking is you just cover a certain area and then you color. So we're gonna start at the top. I used Pool Party ink, so I'm gonna grab my Pool Party. And I wanted just a straight line here for the sky. So I used one of these longer Post-it notes, which is what I'm going to use again. And what I like to do when I attach this onto my card, I like to use the lines that are on the actual Post-it note to get that nice straight line on here. So let me move this scrap paper for a minute so you guys can see. And I wanted a nice little area of that top section. So that should be good. And I'm going to use this line here at the bottom as my guide. So when I paste this down, or when I let that Post-it sticky part attach to my card, I want to make sure that this line is right along the edge of that card. That will let me know that I have a good straight line across. Now that's what I used before. I actually went down one more. It looks like I went down one more toggle. So let me move down one more. Let's go down one more line. I thought, at first I thought, but so you can see through the Post-it note. So that really helps. If you need to use grid paper, you can use grid paper to also line up. You know, we sell our grid paper, which I do use when I'm doing my stamping that's not videoed. Let me make sure what that looks like. Yeah, that's the distance that I use. So I'm going to use that amount of Pool Party. And again, I'm going to put it on this scrap paper, and I'm just going to put my Pool Party to create the sky. So I'm going to go ahead and swirl my blending brush. When you buy these blending brushes, you get 3 in a pack. So you're going to just swirl that. Now, when you get it, you're going to have some concentrated ink at first. So I always kind of blot off. And then I go in a circular motion, and I usually work my way around my edges first. And then I work my way into the center. Now, this is a pale aqua. So you may need a couple passes of grabbing some ink, but you can see it's there. You can see it when I put it on my scrap paper there, that it is actually there. And when I pull this Post-it note away, you're definitely going to notice the color difference because the rest of the card is going to be white. So I think I'm happy with that amount of Pool Party. Let me get this corner a little bit better. So that is going to form my sky. Now my next color that I'm going to use is just a little bit brighter along the same family color. It's called Coastal Cabana. And I'm going to have that be my waterline. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse this Post-it note. I'm going to lift that up. See, when I take it off, you could definitely see the sky, right? So I'm going to lay this down here, but I'm going to actually let a hair show at the top. So when I attach this Post-it note back, I'm using that line that I had, but I'm also going to let just a hair of that Pool Party show, because I want there to be a line that designates the difference between the sky and the water. And when you're in the ocean, there's always like a defined line out there. And so you can see on my card, I have a little bit darker line through there. And I did that by letting just a tiny bit of that Pool Party show. So now on the other side, I need to form like a little sandy area. So I don't want to use a straight Post-it note. So what I did was I took another one of my scrap papers and I tore this piece off. So I just started on the side and I just tore it towards me. I'm going to tear another one, but I'm going to use this one because I really like how it turned out. But I'm going to show you how I teared it. I'm going to grab a scrap here. I keep all these scrap papers on my desk. So what I did was I started on this side and I pulled it towards me and I tried to make how I wanted my sandy line to be. Okay, so then that's how you tear it, and save this other piece because you're going to need it. So I'm going to put this one to the side for right now, the part that I tore, and I'm going to figure out where I want how much water I want, and that looked like a good amount to me. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stick the two sticky sides down on there. This one I'm just going to hold in place. And I'm going to form kind of a water beach line right here. So I'm going to use my Coastal Cabana ink, and I'm going to grab my blending brush, and I am going to ink that into my Coastal Cabana, and I am going to form our water. Now this is a little bit darker ink. So again, make sure that you blot off so that you don't have a splotch. And I'm going to start up here and work my way down. And like I said, I really like starting on the edges. And we're just going to slowly build up the ink. And here's our water line at the bottom. Okay, and now I'm going to fill in the center. And now this one is a lot darker of an ink than the Pool Party is. So I'm just going to make sure I don't shift my piece. I want to leave that in place. I'm going to pick up some more ink here. I'm going to hold it tight. Now my top one is already held because my Post-it note's holding it. So you can come back in. We're going to add more water until you have the right color of water that you want your water to be. So I'm just working my color in a little bit at a time. You don't have to be impatient. This is kind of a process. Until I get that really pretty Caribbean coastal colored, beautiful water. All right, so I'm happy with that for my water. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pull back. Now you see that line formed our sand, just like I had my line right here. Now this is why you save this torn piece. It is gonna be your little water line. It's gonna be your section. You tore this off and you see how it matches right there? It matches when you turn it. This is how I tore my piece. And this piece was what was left over. I'm gonna use that and I'm gonna find my line, but I want that little rushing water where it looks like the water's coming up onto the sand and it looks more white because it's kind of foamy. I want that to show. So I'm gonna slide down. I'm gonna grab my crumb cake ink. Hang on. I'm gonna grab my crumb cake ink and I'm gonna take my little piece right here and I'm gonna line it up where it matches and then I'm gonna drop it down just a hair, okay? And I'm gonna hold that into place. Now you can use your Post-it note. There's my water line, and you can help use that to hold it into place for yourself there, or you can just hold it with your fingers. So I'm gonna now grab my next blending brush. I'm gonna grab some crumb cake, and now I'm gonna form my sand. Now remember, I dropped that down, and because I used the piece that I ripped, it follows along that same line, which is why you wanna save that. So let's go ahead and hold this into place. I like doing this piece kind of on an angle, so I'm gonna hold on to it. I'm gonna grab my blending brush. I'm gonna dab some off, and I'm gonna do my edges first. And then I'm gonna work my way over my torn piece. And I'm just going to continue to pick up ink a little bit at a time until I have the right color of sand that I want it to be. So I want it to be kind of a medium. I don't want it to be too light or too dark because I want to add some more area that's darker with my stamp. Let me grab just a tiny bit more. I'm going to put it here in the center. Okay, so that's my sponge sand. Okay, so now I'm going to take my whole piece, and there are my 3 distinct layered pieces. And I'm going to leave this open. We're going to move the brush out of the way. So you can see that I have my sky, my water, you have the water cascading up onto the sand, and then I have my sand area, okay? So now I'm going to use some stamps. So in the Paradise Palms, you have this really cool little stamp right here. I'm going to use that, and that's what I did to form this darker area. I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to grab our stamp. We're going to ink it into our crumb cake. And I'm going to turn it a little bit on an angle. And I'm going to start up here. I want kind of like a sand dune right there by the water. And you can see how dark it is when you stamp it down. This stamp gives it nice texture. So I'm just going to keep filling in my area until I get it how I want it to look. So I'm going to stamp and stamp and stamp again. And I'm just going to keep lifting up and keep stamping. And as every time I stamp it down, it gets it a little bit darker. A little bit darker than the last time. And so little by little, I am filling in. And as it dries, it will lighten some. So I'm just going to keep going on and on, over and over, filling in my sandy area. Okay, I'm happy with that. That looks really good. You have the lighter sand and then you have the dark. And like I said, it's gonna dry. You can see all of that little texture that it gives by me overstamping and overstamping on my main card. So that is that part. So let's go ahead and close this for now. Actually, let's go ahead and stamp our words while we have it out. I'm going to move this off to the side and we're going to put this on the scrap paper. I'm going to clean everything at the same time. So we're going to use our Wishing You a Warm and Beachy Kind of Day. I'm going to ink that into my ink And I'm going to stamp it to the left here because I'm going to trim that side off. So I want it to be kind of off to this left side when I stamp it. So we're going to go ahead and press that down. And there it is, wishing you a warm and beachy kind of day. So now I have to clean both of these stamps. I'd like to use my my chamois to clean. So the chamois is, it doesn't look dirty like this when you get it, of course. It's purple. This has lots of ink on it, but it cleans perfectly. You just add some water, and then when it gets saturated, you just run it under the sink, add a little bit more water to it. Sometimes you can throw it to through your wash if you want. It's a really awesome little piece. So I'm going to set this to the side, and now we're going to stamp our palm trees. Okay. So here are the palm trees. So the way this stamp is you get 3 palm trees. And so I wanted to have not one color. I wanted to have the stems brown and the tops green. So I chose to use the same color as our cardstock background, Bermuda Bay, for my palms. And for the stems, I'm using Crumb Cake. So these are my Stampin' Write markers. This color came out of our neutrals, and this color came out of our brights. And so I'm going to start with the lighter color first. I'm going to use the brush tip, and I'm just going to stroke the stamp. And you see I'm not using the tip. I'm just using the side, and I'm just rubbing it like this. And if you get a little bit on your palm, it's okay because the green is darker, so it's going to cover it. So there is the stems or the trunks. And now we're going to use the brush tip of the Bermuda, and now we're going to color our palms. Okay, so we'll get those done. And this is how you get a two-tone look. So this is from the brights, and like I said, the Crumb Cake is from the neutrals. You can buy them in color families, and the in colors come in the 5-pack of in colors. So it's really cool. You can just get them a little at a time, and they're a great addition to have for certain techniques like this. You can also write in your cards with them, and the colors match exactly to our inks, so it's perfect. All right, so now I've inked that up. I'm going to huff on it. So I'm going to blow out air like if I was like in the winter, when you blow out that cold air and it forms that cloud. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to huff on it, breathe on it. It moistens that back up. And I'm going to find the top of my little mound that I built up here. And I'm going to put my, I'm actually going to bring it down so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to put my palms down right on that mound there. And I'm just going to press, make sure that all my parts are attached down there. And there are my palms. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? I love it. Turned out great. Now I think I'm going to cover those stems. I'm going to go back over that mound just one more time because it's a little bit darker when you stamp rather than using the marker. And I just want to cover that stem area a little bit more so it blends in a little better. I'm going to add a little bit more color down here. All right. You can see it was starting to dry. You can see that it's much lighter than the latest part I put on there. But isn't it so pretty? So let's go ahead and clean our stamps. And we're going to stamp the inside. So on the inside, I have the words happy birthday, and then I put that seagrass, if you'll remember. I'm going to open it and show you. So here's the inside of my card. So I have the happy birthday, and I chose to stamp that in the Coastal Cabana. So let's grab my piece that's going to be on the inside of our card. And grab the happy birthday stamp. And I'm going to ink that up and put that right in the center. So there's my happy birthday. And I also, in the same color, I'm going to put the seagrass. So I'm going to stamp that down here in this right hand corner, just like that. I'm going to clean these stamps. With my stamp cleaner. And then we're done with our stamping. We're going to start assembling our card. It's really fun to build the scene with this. I think it turns out really great. All right, so you can see here I have some sand. So I'm going to bring my little scrap paper back in. And I'm going to grab just what's left on the brush. I'm not going to re-ink it into the crumb cake. And I'm just going to come over the top here and make like a little dune of sand that this grass is coming up in. And just in the corner of that card there. So just using the excess that's on your brush, you can get that nice little sand dune. So now we just have to assemble our card. So let's bring this back. We're going to go ahead and attach our scene that we made here, our water scene, which turned out fabulous. We're going to attach that right here on top. So I'm just going to use my wet adhesive. And you can see it's a very small border, but I think it's perfect. It's just enough of that crumb cake peeking out behind all those pretty blues. So that's that. We'll attach that onto the front of our card. I like to go around the outer edge. Well, if I have any glue left in here, I think I'm running low. I might have to open a new one. This happens sometimes. There we go. All right. Let's go ahead and bring our card in place. And this is going to form a nice little border around our card. And when you're happy with it, that's why I like this wet glue. You can kind of wiggle it into place. We're going to press that down. That looks awesome. Look at that beautiful scene. And then we're going to go ahead and do our wishing you a warm and beachy kind of day. I'm going to trim off this end. I'm just going to use my paper snips. And I'm going to just cut a straight line right there. We're going to attach that right onto our card. We're going to use some dimensionals. So let me grab those. Two should be good. I like to use my take your pick tool to get the backs off. Let's go ahead and attach that right on that edge. That looks awesome. Wishing you a warm and beachy kind of day. Let's go ahead and attach our inside of our card. Hopefully my glue is going to flow. If not, I'll open a new one and I won't be riding the struggle bus today with this glue because we're almost at the end. I can feel that we're very close to finishing it and sometimes it gets testy. Let me grab a new one. So when you get your glue, it comes with this little plastic wrap around it. It has a little tab. So you're just going to pull on that and then remove this sleeve. And then just go ahead and open it. This is a nice brand new one. So easy to flow. And let's go ahead and grab this. We're going to open our card. We're going to add our happy birthday with our seagrass right there on the inside. That looks awesome. All right, so we just have a couple things to do. We're gonna tie our twine. Now the twine comes in this Baker's Twine Essentials pack. You get 5 different colors. You get crumb cake, white, gray, black, and vanilla. I'm gonna use the vanilla. I really wanted to add something in contrast to the crumb cake. So I have a piece of this. Let me see how long it is, because I'm not 100% sure. Let me grab a ruler and see how long it is. There's 12. Looks like it's about 16.5 inches or so. We're gonna tie it. So when I tie with twine, because it's so thin and it's hard to hold in place, I like to tie it in a knot first. So I'm going to bring it here. I'm going to bring these two ends together and get my length the same. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and cross. And I'm going to tie a knot. And then I'll tie my bow. So there's my knot. I'm going to hold that in, whoops. I'm going to try and hold it in place. I'm going to hold that in place with my finger here and form my little center opening. And then I'm just going to pull on that and get it tight. Actually, I don't think I got it too tight. Let me use my Take Your Pick tool and loosen that. Let's try that one more time. I didn't pull it quite tight enough. I'm going to show you a trick. I should have done it from the beginning. I was trying to just speed this video right up, and because I don't edit my videos, and I think I ended up not pulling it that taut. Okay, so when you're doing your first piece, if you use your tweezer, I'm going to show you. You can use that as like your third hand, and it can hold your first little piece nice and tight. It'll be like that extra hand that you need, and then you can tie it and let go, and then now you have a nice tight one. I should have done that from the beginning. So now I'm going to form my little loop here. So once it's knotted, it's just so much more stable. You don't have to worry. So I'm going to go ahead and make my loop and pull that. And then to make it pretty, I just hold that center knot and I just yank a little bit at a time on the ends, and I just kind of let the loops do their thing. And I hold on to this one. This one looks like it's kind of twisted. So I want to make sure that I have it nice and open. And bring this one underneath. There we go. And now I can pull on it a little. And then once I have it looking like, you know, as pretty as I want, then I pull on the two ends and make them nice and tight. And then if your bow is not listening to you, you can always take a mini glue dot and ball it up and slide it underneath the knot, and then you will definitely have it behaving. So let's see if I have that in place. I just moved that over and it messed with my bow a little. There we go. All right. So I like that. I'm going to give it a nice little pull. Make sure my loops are how I want them to look. And then we're going to add our embellishments on the outside. This one's being finicky, so I'm going to show you how to add the glue dots. So they come on a roll, and I like to use the tip of my Take Your Pick tool, and I ball one of them up. So I just roll it in a little ball. And because I use the tip, it's nice because it's right there ready for me to slip it underneath that knot. And then I press that bow and I pull that little glue dot. And see how it made it just lay flat for me? which is what I wanted from the beginning. And if you want to trim your ends, you can. I like mine kind of frayed and free, so I'm leaving mine. But if you want to trim yours, you're more than welcome. And so the embellishments that I chose to use are the Elegant Faceted Gems. This package is almost done because I love them. But it comes in 3 colors. You can see I have 3 left of this color. But I'm going to use these vanilla. It has the clear and a vanilla and this really pretty like peachy brown. I'm going to use the vanilla. I'm going to use my putty end of my Take Your Pick tool. So I'm going to grab one large one. I'm going to put it up here, kind of on the little skyline. I'm going to grab 2 of the small. We'll put one in the sky in the corner here, and another one on the sand, maybe right there. And then I will put these guys away. You can see how beautiful they are. And I do like them so much, so I have used them plenty. They're an awesome little embellishment. Again, they're called the Elegant Faceted Gems. All of the products that I use today will be linked in the description below, so you won't have any problem finding what you need. Let me pull my mat out of the way, and we can show our card. I'll bring my stamp set back in. And of course, we used the stylish shapes and of course the matching Paradise Palm dies, which are called palm dies. And if you purchase the bundle, the stamp set and the dies together, you do save 10% in my online store. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making this card with you. Thank you for watching, and I will have at least 4 more videos with this bundle. So if you do like it and you want to see more ideas with it, tune into my channel. I appreciate you watching me, and this is Kelly with Inky Hands Warm Hearts. Happy stamping, guys!